Hello, how are you? I hope you're good. Welcome to apparently 5th annual Book Roast Book Awards. We don't go the same places that we used to go. Started my channel in 2016, and at the end of 2016, I wanted to do a little awards for the books that I've read in that said year. So those are the books that I've read during that year, not necessarily that they were released during that year, and most often they're not. So the categories mainly stay the same, although we do have 2 new ones from this year onwards. Even if you watch my last year's, I think I'm pretty much said like, oh well, 2019 was a mess. Little did I know. I'm not 100% sure, but I think this year is actually a year where I read the least books in general. I read, I think, 42 or 40-ish books. It's still enough to do the awards, although some categories it was slim pickings. Slim pickings? Slim pickles? What's the saying?
Slim pickings, babe.
Not pickles?
Not pickles.
Should be pickles though. The categories. So last year we had 10, this year we have 12. The most emotional or impactful read for me this year was The Humans by Matt Haig. This is a story following an alien that has to come and impersonate a person because people were on the verge to discover information that the rest of the universe thinks that humans should not have knowledge of. As he lands first, he finds everything from human appearance to their way of living really repulsing, and it was really interesting to see this character go through familiarizing himself with the ways of humans and experiencing what it is to be a human and how that perspective shifted. And there was a lot of commentary on the human ways, and it was a really humorous yet, I think, to me, probably the most impactful of the books that I've read. An absolutely new favorite of mine, and I will probably be recommending this to everyone to the point where you guys are really, really tired of me, so might as well just read it now and get it out of the way. And it was one of the very, very few 5-star reads of 2020 for me. The most unique read of 2020 would have to probably go. This was a little bit tough because I feel like I've read quite a few unique in their own ways reads, however, none that were extremely mind-blowing. I'm gonna go with The Yellow Wallpaper. This is an extremely short book, but it was unique in a way that it told a woman's story through such a short, I think it's like 20 pages or something. Yet it was, again, really revealing of the time's issues, and it was about a woman's lack of autonomy and lack of understanding of mental health, and it was one of the first, if not the first, piece of literature of that sort. It was a very... I'm changing this particular category because I don't even know myself what it means anymore. So previously known as the most fandom-worthy read, when I created this category, I don't think that I understood what kind of reader I am. I am not a particularly fandom-y person, if that makes sense. I know that's surprising considering my previous content, but so I've changed it to myself to a surprising read. So this in particular is surprising in a good way. So I was not necessarily expecting too much of it, but I had a better time than I thought I would. And that one is The Switch. This was the second book by Beth O'Leary that I read. The first one was Flatshare, and I actually did enjoy Flatshare quite a bit. So it's not like I was expecting to dislike this particular one, but the plotline where we follow the grandmother particular in this book was so heartwarming, so important, because we so rarely get anything in regards to old people that still talks about loneliness and how that is a massive aspect of being an elder in certain cases, but it was also talking about love and how she is, still alive, and how people around her sometimes treat her as if that's it, like her life is lived. And no, it was so nice. There were definitely things in this book that I wasn't the biggest fan of. I didn't necessarily need all of the romance plots in every single character line, and I will say that I do think that I really enjoy kind of generationally set up books, because this one follows the daughter, the mother, and the grandmother. So I'm excited to find more reads like this. So it was a nice surprise, and it actually revealed something about me as a reader. So if you know any generational books that you think I would like, let me know. For the funniest read, I once again have to nominate The Humans. Some honorary mentions, I guess, would be Kings of the Wild and also All Systems Red, but funnily enough, all sci-fis, which technically this is. But this one was one of the books that I was reading and then I would have to stop and actually read a little bit out loud to Logan because I was like, look how funny and insightful. I think because the humor stemmed from being insightful because it would point out silly things that we do that are so normal that you don't notice that it is silly, but when you look from someone's perspective who's just observing this whole behavior or the way of living for the first time, and you're like, yeah, that is quite ridiculous. So it had a point to the humor, and I really enjoyed that. So The Humans. Another category which I guess not really fitting with the other ones because the other ones are just still kind of like, you know, best books of 2020, but this one is actually an award for being the most disappointing read of. There were actually quite a few of those here. However, I think the most disappointing to me, and now this is the one where most people will disagree with me, however, The Starless Sea. And I say that because her other book, The Night Circus, I gave 5 stars. This one, I don't remember if it was 1 or 2. It was a very low rating. It was a very, very frustrating. I know that some people will criticize the plot and that the plot was really mucky and there kind of arguably wasn't any to begin with, but I found that every other aspect was lacking just as much. And I know a lot of people still really enjoyed and loved the writing style, and for me it was such a big miss because I am not the biggest fan of poetic writing, especially when it's so over the top and repetitive in the way that it's written. It was just a big no for me, and I think it was the most disappointing because it was the most anticipated read of 2020. I think it was the very beginning of the year as well. And if you know me at all, you know that I only have 1 or 2 anticipated reads per year, so it just hurt a little bit more than the other ones. And I'm super happy if you enjoyed it. I can totally see why. It was just a personal big miss for me. Most beautiful covers of 2020. I have 2. First of all, we have Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. It's just a cover type that I really like. I'm just a big fan of kind of more black and white with maybe like a hint of color. Foiled frame is always a massive plus for me. I like the font. I just like the foil. I like how everything's laid out here. I'm just a really big fan of this cover. I personally love it way more than the US one. I don't know what you think. I love it. I love the first one, and I love that they didn't go too far from the first cover to match with this one. And then the next one, I think you can see the pattern is, because I just said is like black and white, but this one is also kind of black and white and also golden. So we definitely see a pattern here and a type. I will say that I also really like the simple kind of white cover. So we have again Brandon Sanderson's the whole UK cover saga. I really like that. Same as Poppy War, and as well as Nevernight, those kind of white, kind of simplistic, but like punchy covers. Those are my favorite, basically. Get Alive, Chloe Brown was the best contemporary that I read this year. I think comparatively I've read more contemporaries than I normally do, so I actually had something to pick from. The reason why this one is entirely personal and probably doesn't really translate to the majority of people, however, it's because of the chronic pain inclusion in the book, and I knew that going in, and I have chronic pain. For reference, I was not prepared of how some of the sentences would relate to my actual core and be almost a little bit triggering if you're not in a space to hear all of those insecurities, especially about people leaving and just being afraid of your limitations and like on day-to-day life and just really struggling through some of the times. I thought that to me personally it was quite close hitting to home. I'm not a person who reads to relate, but this one just took me by surprise. It was a fun read in other aspects as well. It is quite steamy. This looks like really YA, but it's definitely new adult. Some of the descriptions, not gonna lie, were really chuckle worthy, so if you chuckle it's probably kind of ruining the vibe, but I enjoyed it overall. New category alert as well is a best thriller. One of the things I really want to do more so in next year is to read more thrillers, so I have more to pick from. But this year it is And Then There Were None. I think the idea was very clever. There's a lot of people that go onto this island and there are mysterious murders and no one knows who's done it, basically. I thought it was a very clever idea, the way that it was done. I just wanted to be a bit more involved so I can solve it alongside. This was more so like you're just a viewer. You're not giving many clues and at the end you will be like, oh my god, wow, cool. But you're not gonna have the satisfaction of kind of solving it alongside. Or at least I did, and maybe you did. It was still the best one from the batch that I read, but it was not a lot to pick from. But I still enjoyed it. Now, for the next one, I actually didn't even pick. This was by far the worst year for comics in my reading list. I think I only read like 3, and all of them were fine. And like middle road, 3 stars. So I just couldn't pick because they were just all kind of feel like I'm gonna award any yet. So actually for the first time I think I am skipping a section. So no comic, do better next year, me. Then we get to a best fantasy, and this might be a little bit surprising, maybe, or not surprising at all, I'm not sure. But I actually picked A Heart So Fierce and Broken. There were definitely a good couple contenders in this category, there always are. But A Heart So Fierce and Broken is the continuation to A Curse of Dark and Lonely. And I know this is not for everyone, and especially because it's a retelling, I just love the writing style of Bridget Cameron in these particular books. I've not read any of the other ones yet, but I love her writing style so much that even me, who's not the biggest fan of retellings in general, I just really enjoyed the way that it's written. I really enjoyed the connection these books make me have to the characters and how involved I feel with the plot and how much I root for people. So a big yes. Overall, I just had the most amazing time. I didn't want to put this down. Got annoyed at the very last chapter. If you know, you know, but I wasn't happy with that, and it still came out as, I think, either really high 4 stars or 5 star. I can't remember if the last chapter threw me off. I think it didn't. I don't know. But this is my pick for the best fantasy that I read in 2020. The best sci-fi to me was Red Rising. This one also actually took me by surprise. I thought that I would like it because I have a couple of friends that said that I would, but I was a little bit skeptical because I did this like first chapter challenge a while back and I just could not stand the main character in the first chapter, which I still stand by that point. Darrow was insufferable in the first part, it's just so annoying, but it really took me by surprise. I could not put this down. I was having a great time. I thought it was clever in the way that the characters navigated through the challenges in front of them. This is what I like to say is like Civilization game and mixed with the Hunger Games, a game of survival or a game of the fittest in this society that is basically all alive. And I just had a really good time. I can totally see this not being for everyone. Yeah, there were a couple of moments that made me, you know, drop my jaw, and I thought they were really powerful. There was definitely with flaws, and I heard that the writer did listen to the criticism and has improved since, so I'm actually really excited to see that happen. And I would definitely put trigger warnings for sexual assault because it does come a lot, and I was not the biggest fan of the way that it did. Not that it was mentioned, but the way that it was dealt with sometimes. I really enjoyed it. It surprised me. I cannot wait to read the rest of the series, which I'm hoping to do soon. And then the moment we all have been waiting for, the best overall is The Humans, actually. This just took me on a journey I feel like I really did not know I needed, but enjoyed thoroughly from cover to cover. I thought it was such an interesting concept. I'm sure it's not an entirely unique concept and it's probably been done before, but I just really enjoyed the way that it was done, the way that it was written, the way it pointed out what we do and how we live. It wasn't preachy, it wasn't saying you shouldn't live like this and you shouldn't do that. It was just kind of saying this is how it is. it's kind of peculiar. And I just really enjoyed it. I'm not a rereader. I very rarely reread books unless it's like something from my childhood. This is a book that I would reread in a couple of years' time, and maybe even this year. And that to me is the ultimate... Here you go. This is the award for the best overall. But that is the awards for this year. Let me know what your best overall book is in the comments. I hope this was fun. I hope you guys are well. Thank you so much for watching. Stay awesome, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.